The question is about tap lining, and this is a biggie, and this is something that, again, each person decides for themselves to look at or pretend it doesn't exist. That's like pretending the pollution in the world, the chemtrails, the HARP, etc., which we harp a lot about, doesn't exist. You want to keep pretending that. Every day I get up here, I see that, I'm waking up into this distortionally decided world. I'm not deciding it, but others are. There are many ways to do things, and the tap lining is a specific reference. In other words, I've created this category, and it's interesting that, you know, others haven't really picked it up. Maybe they have, and I haven't seen it. Again, are they avoiding it? Just like, you talk about the corporation, Joni and Harold's Corporation. It's 100% business. That's it. And that's their choice. I don't see any benefit there. The benefit I do see with them is to recognize what has no benefit. Okay. So again, it's like what Monsanto produces. You eventually recognize that it doesn't matter what you think, it has no benefit because it's really not needed. But we have to deal with it because it's here and people are making choices. So this is how the earth is. So I see the challenge of recognizing these things, and tap lining is exactly what it is. It's agreement, and what people do is they start their routines. We all come into this life, and we start deciding things, but it's not on a conscious level. This is supposedly the idea of consciousness, but actually, with what people have done with that, is that they're not utilizing that idea to its full potential. In other words, it's come to where the idea of consciousness is some kind of ultimate or absolute. And so again, it's just like everybody's blowing up a big bubble, and it's like, oh, the consciousness is getting better. We're going to become more spiritual, and all these ideas that they add to it. And so at some point, we start to decide to recognize what's really taking place instead of just pretending with the routines that we have created. That's a choice. And so this is really, just like Paul said, it's really, he called it a spiritual psychology. It is really along the lines of recognizing the literalism that has been created and people have agreed to and indoctrinated themselves with. It's like everybody's giving themselves their own vaccines and wondering what's wrong with them. And at the same time, not being interested with what's going on with them. That's a choice too. See, it's all these little choices because the whole of life is endless. And if you want a better position, you can decide it, but the tap lining is a huge effect here because you see the process of agreement that has been taking place. And we'll just, again, I'll use the United States because it's a very good example. I don't need to use the whole world because it's always been there. But just the creation of the United States and the agreement here and how it was forged. It was forged on an agenda, a corrupt, distorted agenda that was made to look good. And yes, there were good people involved. I'm not saying that. And it's not about being good, all right? That's cute, but that still isn't it. It has nothing to do with recognizing the is. So, again, people have decided these absolutes, and by the very fact that they have all these things, happiness, thrills, good, bad, etc., they have actually agreed, and they create their own tap linings, just like you plug your computer into the wall, just like the cable guy comes up and it comes out and hooks up your cable. You can say that that's a tap line. Well, that's in a tap line you've agreed to. Now, what happens too with these tap lines, of course, we get used to our computer, and when it's down, we get discouraged because we become very attached. And even emotionally to our computer, to where we get very upset when it isn't properly working. Just like a marriage between two people, when it isn't working, okay, sometimes we throw things across the house or we have discussions that even the neighbors can hear. And so this is what we go through with the personal self. And these tap lines, all right, again, as long as the individual has them, I'll say just to a certain extent, it's hard to get rid of all of them because we have to agree to something here, whether if you like or dislike your shoes. So you got a tap line to your shoes. Okay, well, no big deal. Okay, but it's the agreement and tap line to things that you really don't want to agree to. And this becomes the scary part to face for most people, and that is that, again, we'll pick on the corporation. It's not a criticism, but I can use the U.S. government. I can use anything. And that is that it's kind of like the Roach Motel, this little idea that Raid made to where the roaches go in and don't come out. And the thing is that these business ideas are set up to capture people's attention, get their agreement, and because that agreement is so, the intrusion comes, okay? The individual is taken for granted, and on the back side of the bodies, when the person isn't looking, the tap lines are placed. And anybody can see their tap lines and agreements. And, a lot of people are in agreement to what is affecting them and will eventually ruin their bodies and their experience here, if that's what they want. Everyone came here or is anywhere for one reason, that is to eventually recognize the isness life is. And so, fortunately, it is this time where I recognize this to present this to everyone, more so than any spiritual path or sound good ideas. But again, you got to see more than the surface. You have to experiment with it. And I know a lot of people, there are people that are frustrated because they do the new you. They want to meet Rebisar Tarzs. They have all these other things, etc. They want confirmation. I understand. And so I suggest to go in baby steps. And this is why we create the Skype groups. So people share their ideas. They get ideas. And like you come here and you ask the questions, Charles. And the tap lining is very important because, again, it is a challenge. I see these things as a challenge to waking up. That's the first step, is to wake up. It's like when you get out of bed in the morning, okay? It's a challenge just to get up sometimes because you're really tired. It's been a hard week. It's been a hard month. It's been a hard life, etc. It's been a lot of lifetimes that you're carrying also. And to get up every day and to face the challenge. The wake up is the first part to what's going on, like with the tap lines. But then you decide, it's like, we use this idea to people, waking up. And they will say, well, I am awake. But the reality is that, yes, you are awake to what is taking place here in this physical realm. But at the same time, are you recognizing why you're here? And to do something about it, but that's a choice. See, I take on the challenge to present this in a particular way to see if people want to recognize why they're here. But in the meantime, yes, they're being tap-lined and subdued because those that control, those who have decided, the original invaders, the original reptilian alien tap-liners that originally invaded this planet, don't want people to wake up. I'll just keep it simplified. There's a lot more to that, but just keeping it simple. In other words, they have had an attitude for eons, and because they've had an attitude, they are trapped within themselves. They're very afraid, they're very trapped, and they don't know what to do. So what they do is they try and leech off of others, and this is where the tap lining comes in. So again, it's like a marriage. There are tap lines involved, but you decide through that agreement, you decide how that connection, or the old saying, bonding, is going to be. You decide that. That's something that I would say basically you consciously agree, unless your other is doing something else, and these things do happen. I mean, this is how it is in life. But then the abrasive part comes in, which we're experiencing here from all over this world, and that is that through the Wi-Fi, the HARP, the pharmaceuticals, the vaccines, just everything, propaganda, advertising, television, subliminals, anything to get you to agree, to get your attention, to be able to more and more possess you. Now it becomes possession. And this is really where the tap lines come in. It becomes a really almost an absolute possession. They want to possess you. Okay, are you in agreement to that? Are you recognizing what has taken place? You decide. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can only present it. I'm focused on the projects that I'm doing for people to better recognize why they're here. And this is, we'll just use the Vessel Project as an example. It's just an example. It's not the whole thing. It's part of it. But the real guidance and real education from the real side, in other words, from the real side is here and now. That's with your real awareness. And you decide to recognize these things or keep viewing life according to the routines that you have created. And as you do, you're mainly agreeing to the systems here, which is fine. It's okay. This is where you become conscious effect. And you take on the challenge to recognize what is affecting you, and you decide that, so this is where the tap lines come in. Again, I find it very interesting that this has been around for many years, and that who has picked up on this, because it is a real relationship, but then again, you see what the world is doing. The world here, no matter how good it sounds, with all its information from the aliens to this and that, to what is taking place with the governments and the monetary system, Federal Reserve, whatever. Okay, it's all one-dimensional. That's it. One-dimensional, black and white. That's it. And if that's all you want to see, then don't take notice of what is being presented here. Most people don't, because they're chasing their one-dimensional ideas and so-called information and knowledge, and it all equals to another one-dimensional position. And realistically, all the information that they're taking in, just like David Icke and what he's presenting with the reptilians as an example, these people are being infected and set up for tap lining, which they don't realize. They're thinking they're gaining knowledge. We're trying to warn them, saying, no, it doesn't quite work like that. You know, just because you have your computer and your cell phone and you turn on your TV, yes, there is a benefit there, but at the same time, it's run on microwaves, which are mind control, with images that the personal mind, which is the personal you here in the physical, does not see, but your other four bodies are picking it up, and eventually it filters down and affects the personal self, because they're all together. So yes, this is a heck of a challenge, and it only comes along once in a while, simply because the world has to be ready for it, and there has to be somebody here that can recognize it in some way. So with everything that's taking place out there, and you notice that, you know, Harold and Joni, the United States government, the Queen, and, you know, the monarchy, the Vatican, whatever, okay? They don't mention any of this. They don't want people to know. They want them to all be one-dimensional. If you want to stay one-dimensional, have fun. This is the world of fun and thrills until it's not, because what is being decided here is a huge demise, and Miss Kelsey and others are relating that fact also. But our focus is something awesome, and again, I go off of pure sincerity. That's what I base everything on. I am very sincere and very real with what I'm doing, and mainly misunderstood, and that's fine. I'm fine with that too. I'm fine with everything. I really am, because again, each person makes choices, and we're not here to change the world. We cannot save anybody. That's the God idea. If you want to go along with that, have fun. I would read the latest group that I wrote, Gods and Saviors, or All Is. That's part of it. There's a lot more. This information is available to you, this knowledge, these hints, this references, so that you can decide to do better. And as you do decide to do better, and as you step up sincerely with the All Is and learn to recognize what it is, and the real guides, you start there, they're the intermediates, these tap lines and these agreements will start to diminish on their own, and the boys will take care of them. And so it's according to you and your sincerity and recognizing your intent. This is where you come in. So if you have some other agenda within yourself, It's already seen. Life sees it, the bigger picture. Maybe your neighbors or your wife or your daughter, your kids or your business partners won't see it, but life itself and the real guides do. So you're going to have your experiences accordingly. So take a look at your intent, learn to recognize what that is, because that's the real you. And then you apply the realities that life already is. Again, I love pure sincerity. That's one of them, and gratitude. And just like the sun shining, I see that as just that, pure sincerity, simply because it doesn't stop shining. And it doesn't bother anybody, and it shines upon all. So when it comes to tap lines, when you stand 100% real, what the all is, you won't have any tap lines. That's what's so cool about it. But in the meantime, you deal with the challenge of yourself and what you have created. So yes, the world is totally tap line, just like the circuit boards in a computer, all that stuff that's moving here and there. They want you to be locked and trapped into a cyberspace. This is where virtual reality comes in. And they create endless cyberspaces and virtual realities in creation, because through the endlessness life is, creation can go on forever. And you decide to recognize the difference between what is real and creation itself. So because things are what they are right now, this very moment, not what they were or could be, okay? Those are really, in a way, a fallacy, but they do exist as references. And most of the world is chasing the want-to-be idea. Well, again, until you recognize the nowness life is, you're going to deal with these tap lines.